Good morning, folks. Welcome in. How you been? Hopefully well. But happy Wednesday to you. We're doing something a little bit different, and by a little bit different, I mean we've done it before, but we're gonna swing back to it today. We're gonna do opening lines again today. So this will be like it always has been. Am I kind of too bright? Am I kind of shiny? Hold on. Let me turn this light down a little bit. That was up. Maybe like that. And now I'm blurry. Well, I messed it all up by messing with things. So it goes. We can fix it. We can fix it. Let's do this, and then this. And it should be better. Alright. Hopefully I'm not too bright and blurry, but let me know if I am. One of the downsides of not having hair, huh? Just reflects off the head. Either way, let's get into it today. I already have one book queued up, but I'm happy to hear from y'all. So if you have books that you would like me to read, please do mention them, and we'll pull them up and we'll go through it and kind of talk about it. It's been a fun format. We've done it in the past. I'm excited to get back to it. Though, I will have to hide my screen a little bit. TikTok got a little bit mad at me for having Amazon on screen so long. So we're going to try to stay here until we get to our book. And then we'll okay, so say we got this book, then we'll pop over and pull up the cover and everything. But until then, we'll keep it here. Kai, you said you swear I'm always on so early? Yeah, I let's say I didn't think it out. When I started streaming, I was like, how can I do it right before my workday so it doesn't take away from my workday? And the answer was to simply sleep less and get up earlier. So here we are. I dug this grave for myself. Now I get to drink coffee and try to be awake in it. Hello, everybody over on Video app. Good to see you. Good to have you. I try to read the chat pretty quickly over there, but I'm a little bit delayed. Sometimes I got one chat here and I got one here, so I just got to remember to pop between them, you know. Clara, good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. Sorry, there we go. TikTok's trying to have tech issues already, but we're good. We figured it out. You said it's a solid reminder to start the day productively. My stream is? Oh man, I don't know if productive's nice, but I'm a fan of starting the day with the warm cup of coffee and some quiet contemplation. I'm just not the best example of it, huh? But it's pouring rain for you today and the fireplace is on. Let's go. That's what I want to hear. Rock on. Clara, have you been here for one of these formats before? Bo, good morning. Games Lighthouse, good morning as well over on Video app. If y'all don't know what we're doing today, something a little bit new. And by a little bit new, I mean we've done it before. But tell me your favorite fantasy book, and I will read its opening lines here live on stream. And then break it down. Say what they do well, why they do it, why it works, why it might draw readers in, etc., etc. SpongeBob, you want to know where you can buy my books? Well, thank you for asking, my friend. They're all on Amazon. You can, here's all of them, and they're all linked in my bio, so if you'd like to give them a look, by all means, please do. The links are in my bio. They're on Amazon, Audible, all those fun places. Oh, Clara, yes, I remember that. I couldn't read your opening line because I was worried TikTok would not appreciate it. They are pretty censor heavy, aren't they? Oh well, so it goes. We're here, and we'll make do with it. So let me grab my list over here and get it going, so I can be ready to write down any books y'all got. So, as usual, hit me with your titles. I got a couple queued up in the background, but hit me with yours, and they will go to the front of the list, and we'll check them out. Bobby Parker, you said, what's my favorite book? I like to say I have a rotating top 5 books. Basically, though, if you look behind me on the shelf, that whole top row is just my favorite books. So whenever someone asks, I tend to pick. I go, what am I feeling today? Of my like top 5, what are we feeling? Today feels like a Jurassic Park day. It's a great movie, but if you haven't read the book, it's a really good book too. Okay, on TikTok you said any book. Yes, any book, as long as you're suggesting it in good faith, which I only say because when people say any book, there's a lot of trolls that follow up with books that I clearly couldn't read on stream, saying it only for the joke. So, any book, as long as it truly is your favorite book. Ogie, you like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit? So we've done The Hobbit, I believe, and Lord of the Rings. So pick one of those two, Ogie, and we'll do it again. Jack Ann, you say Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. I just typed, I'm typing it in on my list over here, and I accidentally typed in Of Blood and Ryan by Fire Cahill. So that's a new one. Hey, games, you want Lore Master? Rock on. We can do that. That's actually really appropriate for today. That's, we'll see why later, but that's very appropriate. I love it. Millie, good morning to you. Welcome in. How is your Wednesday going? Ogie, you say The Hobbit? All right, well, and if up until the time that we do it, Ogie, you can change your suggestion. So I've got it written down here, but if you want to change it to Lord of the Rings, you let me know. Guy, you said City of Thieves. Who wrote that? I feel like it's going to come up when I search it. I feel like I should know this. David Binahoff, I believe. I don't know. There's another one by Cyrus Moore as well. Oh no, there's a third one. That's a romance. Binahoff. Okay. Cool. Thank you very much. City of Thieves, David Binahoff. All right, well, let's jump into our first one. Oh, Sean, coming in with The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Ooh, I do love Joe Abercrombie. If you can't tell, by all of the Abercrombie books, filling this entire cube, and then spreading over into this one as well. Katie Talbert, good morning to you. Welcome in over on Video App. How you been? Bobby Parker, you said your favorite book is Kensuke's Kingdom. Who's that by? I'll throw it on the list. I'm not aware of it, though. Which is fine. Raffi, yes, we are doing opening lines again, but you didn't miss anything, my guy. We have got a couple good books to start the list here, so we're going to dive into it. But welcome in, my dude. Been a couple weeks since we've done the opening lines format, so let's get to it. In the Shadow of In the Shadow of a King books. Good morning to you. Sean Buchanan, good to see you, my guy. And we got one for Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. Of course, a classic. Millie, you want Dracula? All right, it's on the list. Oh, thank you, Bobby. Kensuke's Kingdom is by Michael Morpurgo. So I like to say this stream is opening lines, where I read the opening lines of your book. It's also known as Alex mispronounces every author's name because he's only ever read them and never actually said them aloud. So let's get into it. We got a good list here. So the first one we have is Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. All right, let's pull it up here. I am waiting to show my screen until I get it queued up a little cleaner because TikTok got mad last time when I was showing too much of Amazon. So there's our cover. I always appreciate the cover for a minute. I don't know why, but I'm getting fingerprint vibes from that shape. It's not supposed to be a fingerprint. I think it's supposed to be like a dragon egg, which would make a lot of sense. For some reason, my mind went to fingerprint, which doesn't make sense. Jackhand, you said this is also known as the stream of small text that tests Alex's eyesight to its limits. Yes, that's very true. That's very true. All right. So let's do this. Of blood. Oh, wait. Nope. That's the wrong. Hold on. There it is. Okay. This is Of Blood and Fire, also known as The Bound and the Broken, Book 1 by Ryan Cahill. Here we go, folks. Beams of pale moonlight drifted through the forest canopy as Kalinvar pushed his foot against the Urik's lifeless body, turning it over onto its back. Its leathery gray skin was latticed with a motley collection of scars and fresh wounds. He curled his lip with indifference. He had long ago lost count of how many of these monstrosities he had sent to the void. Rough. These things are pretty disliked, huh? There had been a battle in this forest between men and Uriks. Most of the dead were men, young men. Judging by the spread of the bodies, the Uriks had lured them into a trap. The knights had arrived too late to stop the massacre. Okay, so we do the opening lines, so we'll stop there, and we'll talk about it for a minute. Jake Hartman on YouTube. Oh, not supposed to say that. TikTok gets mad. On Video app. Wink, wink. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome in. And Glera, I am adding yours to the list. Thank you for recommending it. Y'all, I really can't type today. Alright, so let's talk about this. Yeah, Jackie, I was getting that vibe as well. Giving me kind of Aragon vibes, right? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Urax reminds me of Urgles from the Inheritance trilogy. Which is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, there are tropes in fantasy for a reason. And sometimes you just need the inhuman, monstrous, terrifying enemies for the main character to fight off the bat. Bird, you said for book 1, this really assumes you know a lot of the lore. Yeah, so that's a style. That's a writing style where they explain the world as you go through it instead of with an info dump or anything. Now, it's easy to explain too little as you go through it. It's a fine line to balance. I am also a fan of explaining it as we go instead of, not even info dumps. That's a negative connotation way of saying it. But it's a balance, you know? You gotta do it right. I do like, oh, yeah, Kashi. You said Urak sounds like Uruk, the word for orc in Black Speech in Lord of the Rings. That would make sense. Also, I imagine, as someone who has read Lord of the Rings, and is a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, I probably pronounced it closer to that instinctively without even thinking. So maybe some of that's on me. Guy says Dune didn't explain nothing to me. Yeah, that's pretty true. That is very much the style there. Alright, but let's talk about the opening line real quick. Beams of pale moonlight drifted through the forest canopy as Kalinvar pushed his foot against the Urik's lifeless body, turning it over onto its back. So we're getting a nice dramatic setting there. Look, anytime you got beams of pale moonlight coming down through a forest canopy, it's just a good visual. You can't go wrong with that. This creature sounds like it's had a rough life. Like, I'm sure this is not where the author wanted me to go, but I'm immediately feeling bad for this Urak. If its body is a motley collection, was latticed with a motley collection of scars and fresh wounds, man's had a rough go of it. Just to die in battle in some random forest, poor guy. I feel bad for the Urak. I'm sure we'll learn how monstrous they are as we continue. Why are they fighting? I want to know too. Probably because they're monstrous enemies for the book. But so there's the opening lines of it. It's funny how much it feels like Aragon, but it makes me look. I am intrigued to read more. I don't think it was the strongest hook, but let's see. We're gonna risk the ire of TikTok by looking at Amazon for a minute. I want to know when this was published. 2021. Wow, that's relatively recently. Is this a republishing? Do you know? Chat, let me know if you're aware, because it feels like it might be a little bit older than that, or at least it's written in a style that makes me think it is. Maybe it's just kind of throwback. Who knows? All right, we'll do the next one now. RLS, you said Dresden Files Book 7. I'll put it on the list. Will we get any spoilers for that if we haven't read the rest of the Dresden Files? Jack Ann, you said in Aragon, the Uruks were not actually evil, so maybe that's why. Yeah, that could be in my head, making me think that's why I sympathize with them a little bit. I could be having some distant memories of that. All right, Ogie, last chance. You good with The Hobbit instead of Lord of the Rings? I know you were waffling between them, so you let me know. No spoilers, RLS? All right, you got it, buddy. Also, Frogs over on Video App, you said, what are your thoughts on House of Leaves? Who really wrote it? I actually have only done House of Leaves. I've only read the opening on stream. I've not read the book itself, so I couldn't speak intelligently on that. Who do you think really wrote it, though? Is that a question? Do we not know? Ogie, you're changing it to Lord of the Rings? All right, my guy. Lord of the Rings it is. Let's pull it up. Got an interesting cover on this one, too. All right, back to our scene here. Cool cover, right? I've not seen this one before. I mean, there's infinite covers for Lord of the Rings, but this is a good one. Monkey Shorts, thank you for upping the Asmin gold counter to 58. Y'all, we're approaching a milestone on that one. Welcome in, Monkey. Hope you're having a good day, my guy. All right, let's do our next book. By a little-known author that I don't think anybody... You guys haven't heard of this guy, right? He's kind of under the radar. But it's a good book, I promise. Wow, it's got a lot of pretext. He's kind of indie. Holy cow, now we got a note on the 5th anniversary edition. After a note on the text. I really should just a forward to the 2nd edition. At some point, guys, I do believe there's actual prose in here. Okay, there we go. We did it. We made it, folks. We got there. All right, so Lord of the Rings, Book 1, The Fellowship of the Ring, Prologue concerning hobbits. Or is that Chapter 1? Why is Prologue linked? Interesting. Well, no, that was the prologue. I clicked it and I messed up, y'all, and I'm very sorry. Oh, concerning hobbits, though. That's right. That's not actually the... yeah, sorry. We'll go to Chapter 1. A long-expected party. Yeah, exactly, Dalton. Only 406 pages in, right? When Mr. Bilbo Baggins of Bag End announced that he would shortly be celebrating his 111st birthday with a party of special magnificence, there was much talk and excitement in Hobbiton. Bilbo was very rich and very peculiar, and had been the wonder of the Shire for 60 years, ever since his remarkable disappearance and unexpected return. The riches he had brought back from his travels had now become a local legend, and it was popularly believed, whatever the old folk might say, that the hill at Bag End was full of tunnels stuffed with treasure. And if that was not enough for fame, there was also his prolonged vigor to marvel at. Time wore on, but it seemed to have little effect on Mr. Baggins. At 90, he was much the same as at 50. At 99, they began to call him well-preserved, but unchanged would have been nearer the mark. There were some that shook their heads and thought this too much of a good thing, and it seemed unfair that anyone should possess, apparently, perpetual youth as well as, reputedly, inexhaustible wealth. All right, so that's where we started with it. I believe there was a little bit before, but that's the prose that we picked up with. So we'll go with that one. We will break this down. I also see a lot coming in chat for book titles, so let me throw... Sam, you said Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We can add that on here. I do love Hitchhikers. We've done it on stream before, but it's been a couple weeks, so we can do it again. All right, so let's break this down. I love This is a very atypical beginning. Obviously, with Lord of the Rings, you have to remember this is a very old book. It established a lot of the norms, a lot of the tropes of fantasy, which makes it feel like it is just very tropey, when in fact it's the book that established them. So keep that in mind. It is the origin point, of a lot of our fantasy tropes. Monkey, you said, where is the Asmongold counter? I just keep it in a text document off screen. It's at 58 right now. But I would love to get it animated one day. That'd be very fun. Okay, so this is a very quaint opening, and I really like it. Obviously, we have the famous opening line from Lord of the... is it from The Hobbit with in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit? I'm pretty sure it is. That's a very famous opening, but I'm a fan of this one too. Especially because we mentioned earlier books that just kind of throw you right into it, right? They just open up with like the world and explain things if they expect you to know it. I feel like there's a bit of that going on here, but in a good way. And I like that. It gives backstory, but in a way that feels less info dumpy and a little more gossipy, which I think is very fun. The way it's just like Bilbo was very rich and very peculiar and had been the wonder of the Shire for 60 years. And then the part that really stood out to me, where I could tell the author was having fun, was this sentence. There were some that shook their heads and thought this was too much of a good thing. It seemed unfair that anyone should possess, apparently, perpetual youth, as well as, reputedly, inexhaustible wealth. That's just fun to me. I love those little asides with the parentheses, the interjections. Always a fun way to do it. 11T, Sean, is 110, I believe. You know, I've just accepted that that's how the Hobbits recount numbers. I don't know if it's Old English or something, but yeah, 11T is, I think it's 111, right? Y'all, I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm off there. Cooper, who wrote that book? I can add it to the list. It's getting along, but I can add it to the list. Just tell me who wrote it. Jake Hartman on Video App, you said, I started reading The Sirens of Titan, and it's been blowing me away. The opening is pretty darn good. All right, who's it by? I'll throw it on the list. I don't know if we'll get to all of these, but we will try. The Sirens of Titan. Is that sci-fi? It's a cool name. So yes, Lord of the Rings. Classic opening. I feel like I might have missed... Is there something before this? I feel like there is for some reason, but it's just all... Yeah, it's just all intro, you know? Georgie, you started reading Lord of the Rings, but it's translated and it's a bad translation? What's it translated from? Razmataz, what's up, my guy? Welcome in. I have not seen Del Toro Quest. I'm not aware of it. Jack Ann, you said, does the humorous parentheses and does the quaint tone only happen for the first chapters? Yeah, you know, I'm on a reread right now, and I'm at Rivendell, and I don't recall too much more of the humorous interjections in here. So I don't know if that continues too much. It does feel more epic and more ambling further on. So it might be... I kind of want to go back now and look at when that stopped, because I'm a big fan of it. That's just my preferred style, though. Cooper, it was by R.A. Salvatore. All right, we'll add it to the list over here. We'll see if we can get to it. We got a lot going today. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Farrell Dodson, can you do my favorite book, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss? Yes, we will add it to the list. We have done it before, but there's only so many amazing books out there, right? And as long as it's been a week between streams when we've done it, we will read it again. And Alicia, you wanted Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. All right, we are officially in the cannot get to all these books today phase, but we will endeavor nonetheless. Next up, we have City of Thieves by David Binahoff. Y'all, am I saying that right? I feel like I'm saying it wrong. It's one of those names that I read all the time, and then never say aloud, and then you don't really think about it until you have to say it loud in front of roughly 70 people, and then you're like, oh God, suddenly I'm doubting everything that I have ever known. Anyway, here we go. City of Thieves by David Minahoff. I like this cover. I'm not sure I've seen this cover before. This isn't the standard one, right? It's cool looking though. It's simple. Let's. I think this is the first time we've done this on stream. So hey guys, a fully new one. In Sarge, welcome in, my guy. Good to see you. Been a long time. How you doing? Welcome back, man. I don't know if you've been here. Have you been here for this format? I think you have. But basically, I ask folks to tell me their favorite fantasy book. Then I pull it up. We admire the cover for a minute. Then I read the opening lines. And I kind of break it down from how I see it as an author, thinking from the technical side of things. All right, so chapter 1 of City of Thieves by David Minahoff. You have never been so hungry. You have never been so cold. Oof, that's a good opening right there. Simple, but I like it. You have never been so hungry. You have never been so cold. When we slept, if we slept, we dreamed of the feast we had carelessly eaten 7 months earlier. All that buttered bread, the potato dumplings, the sausages, eaten with disregard, swallowing without tasting, leaving great crumbs on our plate, scraps of fat. In June of 1941, before the Germans came, we thought we were poor, but June seemed like paradise by winter. All right, I got to pause there for a moment, y'all. That's a killer opening. This is really good. There are just things that you like as a reader, and as a reader, I love a slightly conversational style to the writing, and the interjection with the em dashes in here, and then the commas that extend sentences, particularly with like eaten with disregard, comma, swallowing without tasting, comma, leaving great crumbs on our plates, comma, scraps of fat. It makes it feel like it's a train of thought. The person's like thinking this to you, or you're in their headspace, which is fun. I like that personally. Might not be for you. I think it's cool. I'm assuming this is about Stalingrad, based on it, from what we've read initially. But anyway, I'll continue. At night, the wind blew so loud and so long it startled you when it stopped. The shutter hinges of the burned-out cafe on the corner would quit creaking for a few ominous seconds as if a predator neared and the smaller animals hushed in terror. Oh, what a description. Dude, that's kind of giving me a little bit of chills in there, man. I'm kind of feeling that. The shutters themselves had been torn down for firewood in November. There was no more scrap wood in Leningrad. Every wood sign, the slats of the park benches, the floorboards of shattered buildings, all gone and burning in someone's stove. The pigeons were missing too, caught and stewed in melted ice from the Neva. Neva? No one minded slaughtering pigeons. It was the dogs and cats that caused trouble. God, that line goes way too hard. That's a horrible line, but a powerful line. All right, we'll stop there since that's the opening. Let's talk about it a little bit. In Sarge, I'm doing well, my guy. I'm glad to see you back. What's been going on with you? Anything new? Anything exciting? All right, so let's look at this. I like this opening a lot. Honestly, it's not talking about happy stuff, but it immediately catches your attention. And that's what I always talk about, right? You have to hook the reader with something, and I feel. You have never been so hungry. You have never been so cold is a pretty effective hook. It immediately makes me think, never so hungry as what? Never so cold as what? And that makes me want to read the next sentence at the very least to get the answer. And that's how a good hook works. And then it delays the answer. This is really smart. So it puts up that proposition, right? You've never been so hungry. You've never been so cold. It makes you ask. It encourages you to ask, so hungry, so cold as what? And then, before it gives you that answer, it delays a little bit and says, if we slept, we dreamed of the feast we had carelessly eaten 7 months earlier. And it just kind of, it takes you on a little bit of a tangent while holding that question that you want answered up in the air, kind of draws you in a bit more with the prose. Jackie Ann, you said pigeons missing is visceral, honestly, like when the insects go quiet in a forest. I think that's a good detail. the fact that they even ate the pigeons. I feel like that's not. It encourages me to think that it's a realistic detail and not one just invented by the author. I'm not sure if it is, but I'm pretty sure Stalingrad and Leningrad are the same thing, right? Like they just changed the name. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Okay, different cities. I'm thinking of Volgograd, which changed into one of those two. Okay, Stalingrad became Volgograd. Leningrad is now St. Petersburg. Yeah, okay, so it was the site of a siege. But I feel like that detail about the pigeons has to be something that comes out of reality, right? Maybe the author's just that good and they made it up, but that feels to me like that's a historical detail. Also, I'm absolutely enamored with the line, "At night the wind blew so loud and long it startled you when it stopped. The shutter hinges of the burned-out cafe on the corner would quit creaking for a few ominous seconds, as if a predator neared and the smaller animals hushed in terror." That's pretty sick. That's really good writing. So initial impression is this is going to be a dark book, but that writing is beautiful right off the bat. And that's a pretty good combo. I like it. And that is to say, I'm not. It feels weird to say I like it about a book without such dark content, but so it goes. Jack Ann, good point. That is the shutter hinges is bringing attention to what's missing versus what they have. A good way to show description. Describe things by what they once had and no longer have. I like it. Sean Buchanan, you said city chicken. Pigeon, small, city chicken or pigeon, small difference when you're hungry. I believe it. All right, next one on the list. Let's do full disclosure. This one is the book of a buddy of mine. But let's go ahead and pull it up here. I am a fan. And we will look at First Necromancer, if I lean out of the way. By Coldfang89. Y'all, if you're not familiar with lit RPG, it's an up-and-coming genre. It's pretty fun, pretty exciting. It's some cool stuff in there, and I saw earlier we also had Lore Master, Ascension of a Street Rat recommended, which is also lit RPG. So we got a little bit of a lit RPG undercurrent today. But for starters, y'all, I love this cover. A lot of these I'm reacting to for the first time. I'm breaking it down on the fly, not having read it. But this is a good cover, right? Yeah, Jack Ann, look at that. That cover, all caps. It's really good. Fat Frog, you agree? Wait, Skinny Jeans, you said you've listened to the audiobook. You need to check out the second book. Was that for First Necromancer? It's an awesome cover, right? They just absolutely nailed it on this one. I particularly love this skeleton back here that's like bent over. It feels very in the process of like reanimating and like whipping upward. It's pretty sick. Cassidy Cook, good to see you in chat. How you been? Been a hot minute, but I'm glad you're back. We got you. We got InSarge back. We got some OGs in stream today. Good to see y'all. Happy Wednesday to you. How you been? Ken Kaizen as well. What's up, buddy? We need a cover day? Just looking at covers all day? Hey, we could do that. Look, Wednesday format's a little bit flexible. So, hey, maybe. Skinny Jeans, you said this is a good book for people who like System Apocalypse books. Yeah, I agree. Josh, what's up, my guy? All right, let's do the opening lines here. We've got our cover, which... Also, by the way, shout out, this is by Portal Books, who I have worked with many times. I would say I would call them my primary publisher. Let's read the opening, though. I appreciate all the love for the cover, y'all. All right, Chapter 1 of First Necromancer by Coldfang89. Awareness slowly crept to the forefront of Drew's being as an uncomfortable pressure rose to prominence. The serene comfort of his previous unconscious state swiftly evaporated as an urgent need came to his attention. Despite his current grogginess, it made itself known in such a way that could not be denied. He needed to pee. Badly. Being the kind and thoughtful husband he was, he reached down to gently shift the covers and shuffle out of bed via the barest of movements. Okay, pause for a moment. Too real. Very real detail, y'all. That feeling of waking up and being like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. Okay, don't wanna bother the missus. Gonna roll out real careful, like walk as quietly as we can, and then generally in my case walk into something in the darkness because that's just how it goes. Anyway, being the kind and thoughtful husband he was, he reached down to gently shift the covers and shuffle out of bed via the barest of movements. Except his hands met only air. Did Amber steal the covers again? Drew grumbled groggily at his wife's thievery. Come to think of it, it was pollen season. Amber's allergy-fueled snoring should have been shaking the walls, banishing any thought of returning to sleep until he applied his marriage-saving earplugs. Dira, you said that he needed to pee made you chuckle. Yeah, it's good, right? It's a good setup in those opening lines. I'll read just a little bit more and then we'll go break it down. Come to think of it, it was pollen season. Amber's allergy-fueled snoring should have been shaking the walls, banishing any thought of returning to sleep until he applied his marriage-saving earplugs. But all was silent. There was no snoring, no creepy yet endearing sleep muttering, no tossing and turning as her husband's movements provoked an unconscious bid to claim the soon-to-be vacated bed space. He couldn't even hear the distant whine of Freya in the backyard. She had an uncanny ability to sense when one of her owners was awake. It was true silence. It was in that moment that Drew's actual surroundings finally registered in his mind. Drew wasn't in his bed. His wife wasn't next to him. There was no night pea friendly connected bathroom nearby, nor an excitable dog stirring within the house. No, he was in a nondescript white room. He blinked rapidly, reaching up with his hands to wipe away what must have been a hallucination brought upon by his semi-wakefulness. Alas, even after clearing his eyes, the room remained, as did his urgent need to relieve himself. Ugh, this is the worst. I'm stuck in a dream while needing to pee, and there's not a single bathroom in sight. Again, too real, y'all. There's been like 3 too real points so far in this. So we'll call it there. That's a good start. Let's talk about it. Jack Ann, you thought he was waking up on a battlefield? Yeah, that's pretty tropey. You could expect that from a fantasy book, but it's going a slightly different direction. Josh, you said you love watching my map making. You love the channel in general, but the map making's your favorite. You'd love to see me do Elder Scrolls, I think. Is that what it means? I think it's a typo. But thank you. I appreciate that, man. Oh, and Sarge, thank you for the roses, buddy. I totally missed that. And Dira? I'm sorry, guys. I totally missed that. But you know the tradition around here. If you give a gift, you get a gift. So, these goblins are for you, my friends. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. All right, let's talk about this. I like this opening with awareness slowly creeping to the forefront of our main character's being. It feels very dramatic, right? And it describes it for a couple sentences with like, he wakes up with an urgent need. He's slowly coming to consciousness. Despite his grogginess, he feels it in a way that cannot be denied. He needed to pee. That's a very true description of waking up in the middle of the night, right? Needing to pee. You're just like, it really was a breakdown of the step-by-step process. Honestly, this whole opening is just an absolute hit after hit of basically relatable scenarios. Go with the next part about trying to get up out of bed without disturbing your partner, and then the thought, wait, why is it cold? Did she steal the covers again? It's just perfect. I love it. It's a very fun opening. Jack Ann, you said you do like how the author is weaving in humor, but also a little sense of dread and curiosity. Spot on. That's basically exactly the opening. If you enjoy it, it continues. Skinny Jeans, you said I missed the part where the MC made himself look like Henry Cavill. Yeah, we can only get so much in the opening lines format, but no, the humor in this book is very good, and that's one of my favorite things about it. A lot of the books that we do on stream here, I haven't read. This one I have, and highly recommend. Check it out. But I like Every author brings something a little fresh to their story, and what I really noticed in this one is what y'all are talking about in chat. The humor being woven in, but also there's like a family centricness to this that you tend to not see in fantasy. There's a tendency in fantasy to like sever familial connections. Oh, they're an orphan, or they're just out on their own. This one doesn't do that. It doesn't leave behind the main character's family, and that those are important values that drive the story. I think that's very genuine and very real. So, all right, there's First Necromancer with his beautiful cover by Coldfang89. Let's grab another book. Just catching up on chat for a minute. Josh, welcome in, my friend. Good to see you over on Video App. I hope you're doing well. Gold Tapwater, Berserk is your favorite fantasy book. Isn't that a manga? Which is totally fine. Just more of a, I can't really read the opening lines of it too much. It's all visual, It's a book, Gold. Who's it by? We can add it to the list. Let's update our list with what we've done and grab our next title in the meantime, which is going to be The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Thank you, whoever recommended this. I don't recall who it was, but one of my favorite books. We're just kind of bouncing between books that I like right now. A lot of streams, there'll be books that I just don't even, they're books I've never heard of or I've heard of but never read. Today we're getting my favorites. All right, it's a pretty okay cover here. I have a preferred cover on this one as a book that I really enjoy. Cassidy, you said family-centric fantasy is such a cool concept. It is. I like it. It's a good. It's. I hadn't really seen it. I'm sure it's been done before, but I hadn't seen it done too much before. So I liked that. Oh, Sean, this was you. Thank you, Sean, for recommending this. It is truly one of my favorite books. And Cassidy, I think you said something earlier, and I wanted to respond to it, and I didn't. Let me see if I can scroll back and find it here real quick. Oh, Gandalf the Grey, you said your favorite fantasy books, anything from the Tolkien Legendarium. Well, I apologize, Gandalf. We just did Lord of the Rings earlier in stream, but my stream is always saved to the video app that starts with a Y and ends with a tube, so you can go back and watch the beginning if you want and see us do Lord of the Rings. Alrighty, so the next one, let's pull it up here. Opening lines, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Y'all, I said I like this book, but you might see this shelf back up here. All of those. Why is my arm so? There we go. Right up there. And these three here, all Joe Abercrombie books. So I'm a little bit biased on this one, but I'm a big Abercrombie fan. James, I can add that to the list. I'm not sure we'll have time to get to it today, but y'all, the rule for if I can't get to it is come back next Wednesday when we do the format again. Mention that your book was on the list last week, but we didn't get to it, and I will make sure it goes to the front of the list for that day. Moon to Edits, you said, is it a hard process getting your books published? Yeah, it's pretty hard to. They're all hard in different ways. Traditional publishing, you have to get picked up by an agent and have your book sold to a publisher, which is difficult. Self-pub, you can just publish it, but you got to format it, you got to market it, you got to try to sell it. So there's downsides and difficulties to all forms of publishing. So it's really about finding the form that works best for you, that you enjoy the work of. You could do web novel publishing, like on Royal Road, where you publish a chapter every couple of days. That one's I wouldn't say it's easy because you still have to write, pretty frequently, but it's kind of beautiful in a way. I love that you can just kind of earn your acclaim there just by writing through hard work. So that's pretty cool. They all have hard things about them, but it's worth it, I think. Did I finish the map I was working on? I did not finish the map from Monday, but we will be finishing it on Friday. We're darn close to being done with it. We can pull it up real quick, take a quick divergence to show where it's at. As soon as it loads up here. Dira, you're liking the background music? Rock on. I'm glad. Shout out to Kevin McLeod of Incompetech.com for the background music. So here's, hold on, we can actually get the map a little bit bigger here. There we go. I don't gotta lean out of the way too much. So this is where we left the map on yesterday, and we are gonna finish this up on Friday. But as you can tell, I mean, it's pretty darn close. We need to name a few more things, maybe add a little more color, and then we're gonna change this island at the top on Friday. But this map's almost done. I appreciate all the names that folks have been providing and ideas. So think about village, town, and city names for Friday when we come back to finish this bad boy up. Until then, though, we got to do The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Do I have other climates? Asked Jeet for the map. This one we're just doing it for practice. So we just kind of wanted to do like a deserty and then temperate environment nearby. But yeah, other maps I've done, very different climates, for sure. But this one, we're just kind of having fun with it. It's been a great experiment. I've really enjoyed it. Good morning, this email never works at gmail.com. How you doing, buddy? Welcome in. All right, so The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Pretty cool cover. I'm a fan, but the British edition covers are really cool for these. They're like way more detailed. I wish I could pull them off my bookshelf, but I don't want to go get it. We could probably look it up. I'm sure if we go to the images here, there we go. Okay, yeah. See, like this is the cover I'm used to seeing. So it's like on parchment with a little bit of blood splatter on it. TikTok, don't hate me. And it's got like burned edges. And then as you go to if you go later in the series, it starts to get like cooler and cooler. They add on to it until the last book in the series is like just so dramatic with all the damage to the paper. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I have delayed long enough. Let us read it. Cogs, you're a fan of Abercrombie? Rock on. Have you read The Devils? Have you read his new book? I'm reading it now. I'm about 45% of the way through. It's very good fun. Joe Abercrombie is king. Big agree. Big agree. Thank you for the follows, by the way, everybody. I appreciate you. And now, without further ado, we'll read Chapter 1 of The Blade Itself, entitled The End. I laughed so hard the first time I opened this book and saw that Chapter 1 was called The End. Absolutely. If you needed a representation of Abercrombie's sense of humor, there it is. It's awesome. All right. Chapter 1 of The Blade Itself. Logan plunged through the trees, bare feet slipping and sliding on the wet earth, the slush, the wet pine needles, breath rasping in his chest, blood thumping in his head. He stumbled and sprawled onto his side, nearly cut his chest open with his own axe, lay there panting, peering through the shadowy forest. The dog man had been with him until a moment before, he was sure, but there wasn't any sign of him now. As for the others, there was no telling. Some leader, getting split up from his boys like that, he should have been trying to get back, but the Shanka were all around. He could feel them moving between the trees. His nose was full of the smell of them. Sounded as if there was some shouting somewhere on his left. Fighting, maybe. Logan crept slowly to his feet, trying to stay quiet. A twig snapped and he whipped around. There was a spear coming at him, a cruel-looking spear coming at him fast with a Shanka on the other end of it. Shit, said Logan. He threw himself to one side, slipped and fell on his face, rolled away thrashing through the brush, expecting the spear through his back at any moment. He scrambled up, breathing hard. He saw the bright point poking at him again, dodged out of the way, slithered behind a big tree trunk. He peered out, and the flat head hissed and stabbed at him. He showed himself on the other side, just for a moment, then ducked away, jumped round the tree, and swung the axe down, roaring loud as he could. There was a crack as the blade buried itself deep in the Shanka's skull. Lucky, that. But then Logan reckoned he was due a little luck. So, we'll call it there for the opening lines. I think this one is a very interesting opening because Abercrombie is a very non-traditional writer in that he just... Maybe not. Maybe that's not true. He started writing for fun between his work projects. And this is the first book he had published. He has become an incredible author these days. I think this one's a little bit rough on the opening. I think most readers agree that like the raw talent is here in these opening books, but he refines it in later works. You can see him get better and better. And what Abercrombie does best is characters. Very, very fascinating characters. Morally gray, often who change for the worse over the course of the book, but it's very fun to read. He makes you like him still. And all that being said, we are breaking down just the text as it is, so let's break down the opening. Not Abercrombie when he gets even better and better later on, but Abercrombie, as he is provided here, the opening of the book. So it starts us with a just an action opening. Nothing wrong with that. But immediately you get a sense for Abercrombie's style with the commas extending the sentence, kind of that train of thought, stream of consciousness I mentioned earlier. Logan plunged through the trees, comma, bare feet slipping and sliding on the wet earth, comma, the slush, comma, the wet pine needles, comma, breath rasping in his chest, comma, blood thumping in his head. I like this use of it. It's very creative in that it makes you... It kind of assaults you right off the bat with just this flurry of sensory images, which I think puts you right into the POV of the main character, right? It feels like a bit much because it is a bit much right off the bat. The main character's panicked. He's running for his life. He's fighting for his life. It makes sense that you just get barraged with these, sensory overload, essentially. Cogs, you said morally gray. Please, all of his characters are evil. Yeah, Again, then also we mentioned earlier authors that throw you in without explanation. There's a fair bit of that here, and honestly, when I first read it, I didn't get that the Dog Man was a nickname or a title, essentially, of a character. I thought he was literally like half dog, half man. That's not explained for a long time in the book. I don't even know if it's ever outright explained. I think he's just introduced as the Dog Man, and eventually you realize, like, oh, this is just a regular dude. But that threw me off. But speaking of the introduction without too much explanation, there's virtually no explanation here, which is Abercrombie's style. I'm never the biggest fan of action openings. I like to understand the stakes and the why characters are doing what they're doing and why it matters. So I prefer that more as an opening. But there's something to be said for an opening that just attacks you with sensory imagery and puts you right into it right off the bat. And then has the main character fall off a cliff a couple pages later. So, very action-packed opening for a very fun book. Don't let it deceive you. Abercrombie's about the characters more than anything. And, boy, they're good characters. All right, so there's the blade itself. Next up, we have another lit RPG, so thank you. I don't know who recommended it, but next we have Loremaster Ascension. Oh, it was by Lighthouse. Loremaster Ascension of a Street Rat, Book 1. Well, that's Book 3, which came out relatively recently, at least on Amazon. So, full disclosure, this is another author who writes at Portal Books. So, another author in the same stable of authors as me. Look, we're in the author Discord together for Portal. We'll say that. This is... Yeah. For a moment, I was thinking this isn't book 1. Y'all, this creature in the background, this boss fight, man, creeped me out. Every time, from the first day I looked at this cover, I was just like, y'all, that's a messed up looking monster. I don't even know what's going on there. But this book is done very well, as you could tell from a cool 3,700 reviews on Amazon with a 4.6 overall. I mean, my goodness. And there's just been a recent release in this series, so feel free to check it out. Retro Bean, you're a lit RPG fan. Hey, rock on, my guy. Welcome in. We did First Necromancer earlier on stream. If you're a lit RPG fan, or System Apocalypse specifically for that one. Skinny Jeans, you said this one's been on your cover for a while, or been on your TBR for a while. You'll wonder if the opening will convince you to move it up. Well, I hope so. We'll see. But I'll flip back to the cover because I'm seeing a lot of comments about folks liking the cover. It's a good one, right? Portal makes good covers. Shout out to Portal Books, man. Jack Ann, you swear lit RPGs have the coolest covers? They do have very dramatic covers. The cover game is intense going on in the lit RPG space. Patrick, you said, what's the best George R.R. Martin book? Honestly, it's been a hot minute since I read them. I read them in college. I liked them all a lot. I don't really know. I kind of think of the series as one whole thing, really. Retro Bean, what's a lit RPG you like? Oh man, I love a lot of lit RPGs. If I had to pick just one, I mean, obviously Dungeon Crawler Carl goes by default, but I really like Dungeons of Strata by G.D. Penman. I'll put that in chat. A little lesser known lit RPG. Oh my god, there it is. Copy, paste, boom, put it in both chats. That would be the lit RPG I would pick. Retro, I've not read Heretical Fishing. I've heard a lot of good things about it though. Alright, oh yeah, Cogs, that's a good question. How do you do roleplay literature? So lit RPG, the name might be a little confusing. It is a newer genre. I think the easiest way to describe it is, have you seen or read Ready Player One? The book goes into a video game. That's where lit RPG started. It's since evolved to really just kind of be fantasy that has a very defined leveling and power gain system. But you'll see lit RPGs range from lit RPGs like I've written, like this one down here, that actually both of these actually take place in a virtual reality game. It has stakes in the real world and in the game. To ones like this one, which are System Apocalypse, would be the subgenre. Basically, though, it just means that there are very defined rules, levels, power systems, etc. And then the stories go off on their own from there. We might see a bit of it here in the opening of Lore Master. Skinny Jeans, that's a good description. If you watched Sword Art Online and wanted more. Alice Roethlisberger, you said, I love Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, but I'm dying waiting for the next one. Oh, aren't we all, Alice? Aren't we all? But we'll get, I mean, one day, I was going to say we'll get there, but, I'm not that confident. I'm hoping, man. I'm hoping. You mentioned, where was it? Name of the Wind. So we'll do that one next, because that's a couple people have mentioned that today. So I see the popular interest is there. But first, Lore Master, Chapter 1. Rowan was angry. Although there were a number of reasons for his current emotional state, the primary cause was probably the danger that was currently jutting from his chest. The primary cause was probably the dagger that was currently jutting from his chest. It stuck out from between his ribs, blood staining his once clean, brown shirt. Okay, that's a lie, Rowan admitted. It wasn't clean. He grimaced as he felt the dagger move within him. Ugh, that gets me every time. He had been tempted to take it out, but the sensation of steel against bone and the sudden gush of blood had been enough to discourage that. His health had been poor enough before having a dagger plunged into him. He didn't need to go and make it worse. Love that one, too. Feeling the blood escaping in streams down his torso, Rowan forced himself to continue moving, fighting through the pain in his chest. Y'all, if TikTok wasn't already mad at me for the content of the books we read today, it definitely is after this one. If he didn't find a healer soon, he was finished. Unfortunately, healers in Taurine weren't too keen to cater to alley rats such as himself, nor were they easily convinced to work for free. That's something to worry about when it comes up, his inner voice told him. If you don't get seen too soon, then you won't have to worry about anything at all. Except for how an alley rat is going to pay for passage to the underworld. That's fair, Rowan muttered, to no one in particular. Somehow, he still retained the sense to know how crazy he sounded, talking to the air, but his mind was fast moving beyond the ability to care. Staggering slightly, he leaned against the wall for support. The end of the alley that had once seemed so near was now impossibly far away, the exit now retreating further from his vision with each stumbling step as darkness encroached on the edges of his vision. The nearest healer's house was a block away. It was a short distance under normal circumstances, but it might as well have been in Firenth for all the good it did to Rowan now. Alright, so we'll stop it there. Wood Guy, we are reading Lore Master, Ascension of a Street Rat, Book 1 by M.E. Robinson, as suggested by chat. Retro Bean, you said Rise to Glory or Warden. Which do you recommend? Might grab one on Audible. Well, thank you, Retro. Rise to Glory is fantasy lit RPG, so if you like fantasy, go with that. Warden is sci-fi, so if you want sci-fi lit RPG, feel free to check that out. I'll also add that Warden is I guess we'll pop over for a moment. Warden's a completed trilogy, and you can get the box set for a little bit more than the cost of just one book, basically. So if you're interested in it, feel free to check that out, or just do book one and try it out. But basically, sci-fi, if you like sci-fi. Boy, my hand's really white in this light. I'm going to focus on it. There we go. Nope, it's still... There it is. There it is. Sci-fi if you like sci-fi. Fantasy if you like fantasy. I'd pick one of those two. But enough about my books. We're talking about Emmy Robinson's Lore Master at the moment. Opening line is just a classic hook. If I lean out of the way, Rowan was angry. It's a good start. It's not like the most engaging hook right off the bat, but look, it fulfills the objective. It makes you ask yourself, but why is Rowan angry? I want to know more about that. And it answers it in the next line. Although there were a number of reasons for his current emotional state, the primary cause was probably the dagger that was currently jutting from his chest. That's a classic 1-2 punch opening, as I call it. Basically, you have a statement that kind of... Here's how I envision it in my head. There's a statement that makes you kind of lean in, kind of wonder a little bit, and then the follow-up statement is just like an uppercut that just totally gets you right in the chin. And I feel like that's what we've done here, and I really like it. It's honestly one of my favorite ways for a book to open. It gets your attention. It gets your attention right off the bat. And then I always cringe with the description of the dagger moving inside him. Like, you can just imagine it like in the ribs, and then as he moves, it kind of grinds a little bit. Oh, pain, y'all, pain. I won't go into too much because TikTok will get mad at me for content, graphic content here. Even though it's pretty tame as far as books go, TikTok's weird. But yeah, it's an effective opening. I like it. It makes me want to read more. It introduces the character. I'd like to know a little bit more about the character stakes right off the bat, I guess, if I have to be critical. I can't just glaze my fellow authors. But nah, it's a solid opening for a very good book series. You should definitely check it out if you haven't. 3,762 people say it was pretty good, so check it out. All right, let's pop back over here. Take a look at our list real quick. And catch up on chat. Y'all, thank you for being with me here today. We'll do a few more books on stream, see if we can't whittle down this list a little bit. A lot of good books suggested by everybody, but thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. If you don't know, folks, I'm author Alex Knight, and I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time. And today we're doing our opening line stream, a classic. We go through a couple books here and check out their openings. Speaking of which, our next one up is going to be The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. We had several people call for this one today, so popular day for Name of the Wind. Joshua, you said Arcane Ascension by Andrew Rowe is one of your the book that you would ask for. Dude, I love that book. That was honestly, I think Arcane Ascension might have been the first lit RPG I read, or like the second. So good. That book just scratched an itch I didn't know needed scratching. What a wonderful book. All right, but next up we have a classic. Many people have read it. Many people are waiting for more. But The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And I'll lean out of the way so we can look at the cover for a minute. It's a good cover. I like how bold it is. It's kind of simple. I also it's always a little bit obvious to me that this one's kind of photoshopped. I feel like the character here isn't blended in as well as they should be to look like they're part of the scene and not just in front of a green screen. That being said, that's being nitpicky. At a distance, this cover gets your attention, and I really like how bold the title is. Cecil Smith, welcome in, my friend. He said, Alex, how are you? Man, I'm doing good. Got the coffee, got a good stream, we got some good books. It's a good start to the day. How about you, my friend? Thank you for joining us here today. Oh, this is a classic opening. We quote it frequently. Retro, I have not read Roadside Picnic. All right, A Silence of Three Parts, Chapter 1 of The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Immediately choke as I inhale to read it. I'm like, all right, Alex, take a swallow, calm down, get it nice and smooth. Immediately chokes. It was night again. The Waystone Inn lay in silence, and it was a silence of three parts. The most obvious part was a hollow, echoing quiet, made by things that were lacking. If there had been a wind, it would have sighed through the trees, set the inn sign creaking on its hooks, and brushed the silence down the road like trailing autumn leaves. God, what a description. If there had been a crowd, even a handful of men inside the inn, they would have filled the silence with conversation and laughter, the clatter and clamor one expects from a drinking house during the dark hours of night. If there had been music, but no, of course there was no music. In fact, there were none of these things, and so the silence remained. Inside the Waystone, a pair of men huddled at one corner of the bar. They drank with quiet determination, avoiding serious discussions of troubling news. In doing this, they added a small, sullen silence to the larger, hollow one. It made an alloy of sorts, a counterpoint. The third silence was not an easy thing to notice. If you listened for an hour, you might begin to feel it in the wooden floor underfoot, and in the rough, splintering barrels behind the bar. It was in the weight of the black stone hearth that held the heat of a long-dead fire. It was in the slow back and forth of a white linen cloth, rubbing along the grain of the bar. And it was in the hands of the man who stood there, polishing a stretch of mahogany that already gleamed in the lamplight. So we'll stop there. We got all three parts of our advertised silence. I love all the ways it describes it there. This opening, and I mentioned it the last time we talked about it, is just really original. I really like it in that I've never seen anything like it. And it really... So, y'all let me know if this is how it works for you. But for me, when it says it was a silence of three parts, immediately what that does is that posts in the back of my head, all right, what are these three parts? I want the answer. And it answers immediately with part one. The obvious part was a hollow, echoing quiet made by things that were lacking. And it goes to describe all the things you would expect to be there but aren't. The second part was the pair of men huddled at the corner of the bar, drinking with quiet determination and avoiding serious discussions of troubling news. That's the second one. And then the third silence was not an easy thing to notice. So when I read the third silence, I go, thank goodness. I'm going to get the answer of what are the three silences. And then he's like, no, hold on. It's not quite there. We're not going to give you the answer just yet. This is a perfect example of how to do a good hook to an opening of a book and then draw it out to get the reader to stay longer. That's really the point of a hook of an opening. You want the reader to ask a question to themselves about your story. Because if they ask a question, they're likely to stick around to get it answered. That's just human nature. But that's like, I guess, talking about three parts, that would be part one. Part two is the longer you can get them to stick around, the more they're going to get accustomed to the world of your book, to your writing style, etc., the more likely they are to buy it and to read the rest of it. I think this is just incredibly effective at that, on top of having beautiful descriptions. Where was it? If there had been a wind, it would have sighed through the trees, set the inn sign creaking on its hooks, and brushed the silence down the road like trailing autumn leaves. Just a killer description. I just absolutely love that. This is the perfect combination of just good writing mixed with good technical prowess. So, top marks. I can't say anything negative. It's just a heck of a start. Cryptox and Glara, your conversation on video app is very funny to me. Y'all on TikTok can't see, but Cryptox said the orange on blue is ugly to them on the cover here. And then Clara says, my kitchen is orange and blue. And Cryptox says, I'm sure it looks better than the cover. A little mean-spirited, but pretty funny. Slindy, welcome in, my guy. You said... when I'm trying to be quiet, somehow I end up being the loudest. I think that's typically in response to the silence of three parts, or was it something else that I missed? Jack Ann, you said, I love an opening, referring to silence. Nothing is tone setting as silence, and as it's described. What other openings refer to silence? Like, nothing jumps to mind. but I'd like to see others just to compare, you know? Josh said the Florida Gators would like to have a word with Crypt Talks about the orange and blue. Shame I don't have my Gators mug today. I guess I went with the yellow. That would have been very funny. I think we did it on Monday. Dre, I only got halfway through the third silence. Yeah, it does. I mean, we introduced it at least, so I just didn't finish the description of the character. I guess that does end, 2 paragraphs later. We can finish it out if you want. And it was in the hands of the man who stood there, polishing a stretch of mahogany that already gleamed in the lamplight. The man had true red hair, red as flame. His eyes were dark and distant, and he moved with the subtle certainty that comes from knowing many things. The waystone was his, just as the third silence was his. This was appropriate, as it was the greatest silence of the 3, wrapping the others inside itself. It was deep and wide as autumn's ending. It was heavy and great as river smooth stone. It was the patient cut flower sound of a man who was waiting to die. Yeah, you're right. I should have continued on to those next 2 paragraphs. I forgot it has that statement of an end there. It's very appropriate. Thank you for mentioning that, Trey. It's a killer last sentence, right? I guess that's not even chapter 1. That's a prologue, isn't it? Yeah, it's a prologue. It's a good prologue. It's short. It's to the point. It's dramatic. I dig it. Look, there's a lot of things that you can say about Patrick Rothfuss. A lot of people have said mean things because, the series isn't finished. But you certainly cannot criticize the quality of writing. The descriptions are just beautiful. All right, there is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Thank you for suggesting that, folks. Alice, you said he's a great writer. I wish you would just write. Dre, you always tell people he'll never finish, but it's worth the journey. There's some value in that, right? Sometimes it's just like, look, y'all, it's a good book, and you got to appreciate it for what it's worth. It's kind of like enjoying, the early seasons of the Game of Thrones TV show. If you go into it knowing, not expecting there to be an end, and just enjoy it for what it's worth, you'll get some entertainment out of it, Or Slendy, I like your solution. That's what fan fiction's for. Touche, my friend, touche. All right, y'all, if I didn't get to your book today, please, next time we do this format, let me know, and we'll put it at the top of the list. But I want to end on one of my books as well. I like to throw one in there because I think, one, I'm a full-time author, so the purpose of this stream is to sell books as well. So I do like to sell books when I can, but I think it's valuable if we're doing a bit of a learning focus here. When I break down these openings, I give you my opinion as an author for what the author was attempting to do. There's value as well, I think, in looking at something that I was the author of. I can tell you exactly what I was trying to do. So let's pull up one of mine. We will do A Wriggly Little Hands, one of my more recent books. So here's our cover. Cryptox over on Video app. You'll be happy to know there's not a lot of orange and blue going on here. Ricky Doodah Grimes said, "Hey Alex, I've just finished writing a prologue for my book and you've really inspired me." Hey, rock on, man. Good job. And I'm glad to hear I was inspiring to you. Thank you very much for that. But hey, you tuned in, you took the effort, you poured the creativity onto the page, so that's your accomplishment, my guy. Keep it going, and good work. Dre, Ramen, you like the cover? Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Shout out to Ivan Shavrin, my cover artist for this. My guy rocks. I love working with Ivan. I'm going to lean all the way out of frame so you can see the rest of the cover, because I'm blocking it decently well. All right, so Wriggly Little Hands. It is a comedy fantasy about goblins on a road trip to retrieve the Dark Lord's doomsday weapon so they can help him defeat the forces of good. But they're goblins, so they're going to mess it up. Making a note. All right, and let's read the opening. So chapter 1, A Wriggly Little Courier. Goblins look like if cats, hairless cats, had thumbs and learned to walk on 2 legs. But while cats are allowed to commit as many crimes as they want on account of being cute and small, the same hasn't been true of goblins ever since they discovered arson. Today, however, it wasn't goblins setting fire to everything. Ollie had been excited, at first, when so many new friends had shown up on the plains of abandoned hope and paralyzing fear. He'd been even more excited when he noticed all the fun siege engines and war mammoths they'd brought along. But then his new friends, the Bright Queen and the Army of the Just, had laid siege to his old friends, the Dark Lord and his legions of smoldering shadow. In Goblin society, it was polite to greet new neighbors with a nice newt cake or a fresh pot of warmed mud. In human society, it seemed wanton slaughter was the go-to. That was how the Bright Queen had decided to introduce herself to the Dark Lord, at least, and who was Ollie to judge? Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they could do it all a bit quieter, though, and maybe not burn down half the swamp again, especially considering that was the half he and his cousins lived in. So, an interesting point about this opening. I didn't know I was going to have doodles in the book when I wrote this. So I've immediately started out with the line, "Goblins look like if hairless cats had thumbs and learned to walk on two legs," which was brilliant back then when there wasn't, extant cover art to depict them, or doodles at the beginning of every chapter that also shows what they look like. So, a little bit unfortunate, but worth it for the doodles. And also, I just really wanted to, if we're breaking this down from the author's perspective, I really wanted to get their personality across immediately, because, if you look at the cover, you're in for some shenanigans here, and I just really wanted to get that vibe across immediately, and hence the line, "But while cats are allowed to commit as many crimes as they want on account of being cute and small, the same hasn't been true of goblins ever since they discovered arson." I feel like that summarizes these goblins so well. That gets the mischievous, shenanigan-filled energy. Melissa, thank you very much for the heart me, and Slendy as well. Melissa, for what is it? Is a witch hat? Witchy kitty? That's adorable. And appropriate. Thank you. I appreciate that. Melissa, Slendy, some gifts for you. Speaking of goblins, these are for you guys. Thank you very much. You have an army over there, Melissa, and Slendy, both of you. Cryptox, she said the implication that goblins were considered cute before discovering arson is interesting. Yeah, that's fair. I think they are pretty cute still in the book. Just cute with a penchant for setting things on fire. Leisha, you said you like seeing different interpretations. Get off my lawn, guy. The arson is slight spoilers, but they don't do the arson in a mean-spirited way. They just really like pretty fire. So any chance to start a fire is something they greatly enjoy. You could call them pyromaniacs more than arsonists, perhaps, but I really liked, as I was describing it, I really liked the juxtaposition of them being cute and innocent, and then just arson. Arson comes down like a heavy, hard description. So that's why I had it in there. If we're breaking it down, which is the point. Peeling back the page a little bit to look at how the sausage gets made. So yeah, anyway, that is Wriggly Little Hands, and one of my books. It's linked in my bio. If that sounded interesting, please do check it out. That is how I support myself. So if you want to pick up a copy or you want to support stream, please check it out. All of these are also audiobooks, and shout out to Wriggly Little Hands. On top of having a large cast of narrators, it also features Jeff Hayes of Dungeon Crawler Carl fame. So if you're into that, you'll get to hear Jeff's amazing voice work along with several other awesome voiceover artists, audio narrators from Sound Booth Theater. Josh, bringing back jokes from the map stream. I love it, my guy. Y'all, thank you very much for being here with me today for another opening lines Wednesday. I hope you had a good time. I certainly did. Read some good books today, including Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill, The Lord of the Rings by J.A.R. Tolkien, City of Thieves by David Binahoff, First Necromancer by Coldfang 89, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, Lore Master Book 1 by M.E. Robinson, Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and whatever this little Wriggly Little Hands book is by this Alex Knight guy. I don't know who he is, but we threw that in there. Wout Van de Castile, you said, what do I think of Lord of the Rings? I love it. Incredible. I'm rereading Fellowship right now, and it is a wonderful book. I'm having just such a good time with it. The movies are great. Like, I have no bad words to say about Lord of the Rings, except, like, maybe a few more women characters would have been nice, but everybody's got their shortcomings, and the ones that are there are handled well. Or maybe just Tolkien didn't, wasn't what he was interested in. I don't know, but good book. I love it. Good story. Y'all, as always, thank you for joining me on stream today. I hope you had a good time. I certainly did. Thank you for the follows, everybody. Thank you for recommending books to look into. And I apologize if I didn't get to yours on stream today. Please come back for the next one and remind me of that, and we'll bump it to the top of the list, as I want to make sure we get to them. So, as always, a special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for the use of his songs Farm, Manor, Cottages, and Northern Glade, which have provided our background music today. As well, an extra special thank you to community member Raffi the Engineer, who provided our 5th background song, Midnight at the Round Table. Appreciate you, Raffi. Raffi produced that just for stream. That still blows my mind to this day. It really does. I don't know how to produce music. To have a song produced just for stream, incredible. I appreciate you, Raffi. Of course, I also appreciate my excellent moderators, Melissa Lee 28, Raffi the Engineer 1, Happy Harpy, other name wasn't available, Simp1X, aka Slendy, Alicia T, and Aaron Winnick. Thank y'all for doing your moderation duties. I'm glad to say you don't have too much work because chat is very well mannered and brings the vibes. I appreciate y'all. Thank you to the moderators. Thank you for chat for creating a good environment. And thank you to everyone for being here. If you had fun, I'd love to see you on the next stream. Please give me a follow. We'll be back on Friday, and we will be doing Fantasy Map Friday. We're going to finish that map I showed earlier in stream. It's going to be a big day. Tune in for that one, y'all. It's going to be fun. We'll be back at 7 a.m. Central Time on Friday. Until then, thank you for tuning in. I want to give a shout out to RLS 102481 for being here. Thank you very much. Lisa T, Get Off My Lawn Guy, and Josh, appreciate having you here. Slendy, as always, my friend, a pleasure. I hope you're doing well. Hope Mingy's doing well. Alice, thank you for being here. Raffi, Bird, Ronnie, good to see y'all. Welcome in. Sorry we're ending a little bit after you joined, Ronnie, but good to have you. Flesh Over Chrome, my guy, welcome in. Other name wasn't available. Good as always to have you. Isabel, Cassie, Daraga 96, thank you for joining today, folks. Lightning Anime and user 1480418667458. Thanks for being here, folks. It's a pleasure to have you. And of course, a shout out to everybody over on Video App. Jake Hartman, Cooper, Josh, and Cryptox, thank you very much. Glara, a pleasure to have y'all there. And of course, Bobby Parker earlier, who was chatting. Good to have you, folks. I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. Have a good rest of the week, and when I see you again, it'll be Friday. Best day of the week, right? Hopefully by then, we'll have some good weekend plans figured out. We'll finish off that map and just have a good old time. So, I will see you then, folks. Until then, be excellent to each other. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next time.